Back, you're still watching Nile Cruise with 200 million people aged between 15 and 24, the youth bracket. Africa has the youngest population in the world. The current trend indicates that this figure will double by 2045 according to the 2012 African Economic Outlook report. The story of Africa's worrisome youth unemployment is often told alongside the story of the continent's fast and steady economic growth, while 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are in the sub-Saharan Africa. The unemployment rate for that region is 6%. The problem is that in most African countries, youth unemployment occurs at a rate more than twice that for adults. We'll be speaking more about this topic and also about the African Network of Youth Policy Experts, the AfriNYPE, with one of its country coordinator in Egypt, Abdelmaksoud Elmallah. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Abdelmaksoud, good afternoon. First of all, we'd like to know more about your organization and its establishment.
Okay, AfriNYPE, African Youth Policy Expert. It's an African network that is fully established at 45 African countries, and we have representatives among the 54 African countries. Our establishments came 2 years ago during one of the United Nations conferences. It was the first youth policy conference ever that held at Uzbekistan. There, the idea of establishing a network at Africa that take care of youth policies and its enhancement and giving advocacy for decision makers. Along these past 2 years, founders started to recruit country coordinators over the continent, and now we have 54 country coordinators covering all Africa.
Excellent. So, in general, if we look about this energy level, the amount of youth in Africa, how would you comment on this? Because all of the eyes of these. I would say the saturated economies are looking at Africa as a source of growth. How are you seeing youth role in that?
Africa is I believe it's a lucky continent that it's a youth continent. So when we look and see most of our population are youth, so we have the future. Future economies will be built on innovation and technology instead of heavy worker industries and something like that. But the most important aspect here is to build the youth capacities and to give them tools to innovate and to gain knowledge and to participate in public issues and even in politics and to take part in decision making. African countries has many things to do in this field, especially.
Yes.
What about some of the main activities held and done by your organization for the benefit of the youth?
Yeah. Let me say the last year was year of establishment and building the organization. As we are working to be formally established and legally represented at the whole African countries. We have established the 45 chapters over 45 countries, and we are working on establishing the rest chapters. And here in Egypt, we are still working on establishment because of the new law of international organizations and civil society. So we are trying to be abided by law But at many other countries, as I said, we have well-established chapters that started to operate. Like in Morocco, we have one of the most active country coordinators, and she is the research and strategic planning director at our network, Karima Hanem. She delivered training for university students whom are working on a United Nations model, and she was invited to a dialogue about African youth. Also, last year, AfriNYPE was presented at a leadership program for African youth that is organized by the former American President Barack Obama. We have done many great activities that make me personally proud of being part of this amazing network, and they are really active people. And here in Egypt, I'm gonna try to reach the political decision makers in next few months to finish establishing our local chapter here in Egypt.
Yes. If we speak about, if you have one goal as AfriNYPE, what would it be? One goal that you really need to focus on to deliver for the African youth?
Our main role is to enhance and support building an African youth policy, a powerful youth policy that can support youth, that put them on the final stages in decision-making positions, and that empower African youth. So it's our main role, and then you can see advocacy, you can see consultancy, you can see capacity buildings. All these rules came from the main rule, which is enhancement of and building an African youth policy.
Yes.
Well, what are the main challenges facing youth in Africa from your point of view?
Okay, let me say one of activities last year was publishing a fact book about youth policy here in Africa, and one of the most hard to say, but it's a fact that 14 African countries doesn't even have a youth policy. So Africa has a lot to do. Here in Egypt, I believe we have done great things, and we have achieved very great achievements over the past 3 years. We are waiting an international youth forum next November at Sharm el-Sheikh. It's a great thing, and I believe we are doing great things. But always it's a continuous process. It doesn't has an end. So yeah.
So can you elaborate more about this forum? How would youth participate in that? What benefits would it give them if they participate in this forum?
Okay, I was talking about the presidential forum.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
the presidency is preparing and is working on organizing this forum. But we at AfriNYPE, we are working on something like that that should gather youth policy experts and youth representatives from all over Africa. But we're still working on this, and we will announce more info when it comes to the ground.
Yes. Now, I'd like to know more about your role in particular. Would you tell me more about your role? Like, is it recruitment? Is it training? What do you exactly do within the organization?
Okay, we do many things. Like it is not about recruitment. It's more about giving a consultancy for decision makers and giving advocacy. We do advocacy for decision makers. we review current use policies and publish some reports that can be useful for policy workers and decision makers, and they can use our reports to enhance their policy. Consultancy also is one of our important activities, holding round tables and taking part in building a youth policy through networking and something like that. Also capacity building, like that training that I told you about, that happened at Morocco.
How could this make a difference? This sort of policies and enhancements. How would this make difference with the youth, in your opinion?
Okay, if there's no policy, there's no system, and we cannot live without system that depends on individual initiatives. We have to build a system to empower our youth and to build a creative and powerful community. They are our worth. It's our wills. If you build a powerful, and if you empower your youth, you will get it's like an investment. It has a revenue, return of investment, and the return of investment in people is really huge.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdelmaksoud Elmallah, the AfriNYPE country coordinator here in Egypt. Thank you very much for this interview. And now we will be looking at our own cruise online to look on what's trending on the social media.